You're listening to another episode of the Just Go Bike podcast, powered by RagBrite. This is the award-winning podcast where we are all about the culture of cycling, just for the fun of it. Your hosts are Murph from the Murphology podcast and AP from Parrot Talk. With tales from all over the nation, come for the bikes, stay for the fun, and leave with a smile. And now here is Murph.
Hey, that's me.
And AP.
Hey, that's me. Well, hello, Murph.
Hey there, AP.
How are you on this fine day?
I am very good on this fine day. Here we are at Parrot Talk Studios looking at each other.
I know.
But not recording this since we're not wearing the same thing.
Yeah. You know, sometimes we have to be our own individual people. It's weird and kind of wrong, but that's the way being an adult works.
We are actually wearing almost the same, but we're still not.
We're both wearing black shirts and jeans.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So this is newsworthy. You are the proud owner of
a smart trainer.
A smart trainer.
Yeah, that's right. So
which is not as exciting as a new bike, but pretty darn close.
Kind of feels like a new bike.
So did you have a dumb trainer before?
I had a dumb trainer before, and first of all, I'm addicted. The first day I hooked up my trainer, did 2 workouts because I was so excited. It feels like night and day. It feels like much more like actually riding a bicycle than the dumb trainer, because the dumb trainer, you're kind of going the same cadence the whole time and the same difficulty the whole time. And this bad boy will adjust your speed. It will adjust how difficult it is. And I get to pretend I'm riding around a little volcano while I'm doing that.
So the best news for me about the fact that you now are on a smart trainer is that you have invested in the app called Zwift.
That's right. Yeah.
So listeners may remember during the RagBrite route announcement weekend, we did a Zwift ride, which is basically a virtual, it's kind of a game.
Yeah.
I guess you would say,
yeah.
Because you're an avatar and you are in a fictional world called Watopia.
Yeah.
And then you pick your bike ride, or maybe you just pick a place that you want to bike ride within this virtual world. And if there's a hill in the virtual world, your bike trainer will adjust so that you are cranking up that hill as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all different thing. I mean, and it will adjust, the one I have, it will adjust your gears for you.
Yeah.
And so your cadence is quote unquote right. So I feel like I'm spinning away, because usually I sort of crank on the gears. But I feel like it's good for me.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So are you going to disclose to the listeners what your handle is on Zwift so we can all follow you?
Well,
wait, spoiler, I'm already following you, but
I was going to say, sure. I will say, while I am slow in real life, I am also slow on Zwift. So I'm not exactly the most exciting person to bike with, but my handle is a parrot.
Okay.
So that's pretty straightforward. And my little picture is a little cat. It's my cat, Sophie. So
your cat's yawning, I believe,
she's
in
yawning,
the photo.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then there's a lot of people that are already following me because I've been on Zwift for a while, but I am Murph Spaceology.
Yeah.
Murph Spaceology. And I think it's a picture of me when I had long hair and braids, I think.
Yeah, kind of something like that. So we're immediately Murph and I are going to do a ride together. And if that goes well, then maybe we'll invite some people along for another ride in the future.
Yeah, we're going to do a meetup where we both ride the same fictional place, but from our own homes.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Actually, if it goes well, people will just know because we'll probably start promoting it on social media.
Yeah. So let's do one tester and then hello world, look out.
Yes.
Here we come.
Yes.
So
speaking of hello world, do you remember the bike ride called TOMRV?
Yes, I do. And I think I remember what it stands for. Do you?
I know. Well, I'm looking at it online. So
okay.
You tell us.
I believe it stands for Tour of the Mississippi River Valley.
You are exactly right. So
nailed it.
That is how the word TOMRV came to be. And it's coming back for 2025.
Yeah. Apparently it had taken a short hiatus, a couple years. And yeah, they're back in, dare I say, better than ever.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll find out. So the Quad Cities Bicycle Club is the organizer of this event. And on today's episode, I'm going to interview Tina Anderson. So she is beyond excited to tell us all about it. But just real high level, I think in the past there's been around 1,000 cyclists. And since it's right on the Mississippi River, in years past, it's a little bit in Iowa, a little bit in Illinois, sometimes all in Iowa, all in Illinois. So I'm excited to see what Tina has to say about this one.
And I just imagine those really scenic last days of RAGBRAI where you're riding into the Mississippi River and there's hills and bluffs and views and obviously the river itself, but you get that for the whole ride.
Yeah. And I believe it started in the late 70s, but have you ever done TOMRV?
I was signed up for it 1 year, but then we got rained out with my mom, but we weren't able to ride. So still on the bucket list.
Yeah, me too. I have not ridden it. My very good friend, Dave Wiedemeyer, also known as Hacky Jedi on RAGBRAI, he does TOMRV every year. And,
yes.
If you've listened to the episodes I've done with Hacky on this podcast, he's all about the patch.
Yes.
So if an event has a patch, he's doing it.
I've seen his patches. He's got quite a few
Yes,
at this point.
He does. He has a complete jacket.
Yeah.
Anyway, but TOMRV is back, and let's get to Tina's interview.
I can't wait to hear what the patch is going to look like.
A very warm welcome to Tina Anderson from the Quad Cities Bicycle Club. Hey, Tina.
Hey, Murph, how are you?
I'm really good. We ran into each other recently when we were at the Iowa Bike Expo, and we were talking about this revived ride called TOMRV. So here we are now on the podcast talking about it.
Yeah, super excited for the opportunity to continue to advertise TOMRV. Bike Expo was a really good launch for us to bring this ride back.
Uh-huh.
Really appreciate borrowing the power from you and AP so we could show our slideshow.
Yeah. Actually, before we get into the nuts and bolts of what TOMRV is, will you tell the listeners where you call home and if there's a cycling culture or what biking is like there?
Yeah, so if you run into me either on RAGBRAI, Iowa Bike Coalition, and I start talking about the area, I will tell you I live on the east coast of Iowa.
East Coast, okay.
Because I like to make it sound fun and exciting, and it is. So I live in Davenport, Iowa, and we have an amazing cycling culture here. We have, to quote a friend earlier this year, we embrace all size wheels. And it really does, because we can bike in the winter on fat tires. We have a good road biking, gravel, and mountain bike culture. So it really is kind of a little hidden gem, if you will, that a lot of people don't realize. And then we do have the beauty of we can bike over 100 miles on paved trails along the Mississippi River between Iowa and Illinois.
That's what's so beautiful. And that's actually a great segue to talk about this bike ride because without the Mississippi River, it probably wouldn't be as appealing.
Yeah. And that's exactly what TOMRV stands for. It's the Tour of the Mississippi River Valley. So you're actually going to get 3 states in TOMRV because we do touch into Wisconsin. But TOMRV itself is a 2-day, it's a challenging bike ride that the gold standard or the top of the line is riding your bike from Bettendorf, Iowa to Dubuque, Iowa, which is about 100 miles and about 10,000 feet of climb.
How many thousands of feet?
I think it's like 10,000 feet of climb is what.
Wow. So this is a challenging ride.
Yes, but it is doable if you put in the training.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not like to scare anybody, but if you're at the spin class, if you're working out, you can truly get in shape for this ride. And it is, I guess, the first time I rode TOMRV, I'm like, oh, this is going to be really fun. It's going to be a day on the bike with friends. It is a ride, so it is a little bit more heads down, but we're going to feed you really well. Mm-hmm. And it is fun just to hear and cheer everyone on because of the challenges.
Yeah. And we're recording this in the end of February. When does this ride take place?
The TOMRV will take place June 7th and 8th. So it's a Saturday, Sunday ride. And it'll be here before we know it.
Yeah. And actually you do have plenty of time to train if this is something that you're interested in. When you say it's a 2-day ride, is it like a out and back? So you go somewhere, stay overnight, and come back?
Yes. So Bettendorf to Dubuque, or we have a second start location, which is Goose Lake, Iowa to Dubuque. And our riders will overnight at Loras College. We have different sleeping arrangements. Camping is free, but there's opportunity to sleep inside, just put a sleeping bag on the gym floor, or we offer dorm rooms you can rent. And for those who want maybe a little bit more upscale, you can get a hotel. I mean, Dubuque is a beautiful tourist area, lots of hotels. On our website, we're kind of promoting 3 that are pretty close to Loras College because there is an evening meal included, and you'll probably want to take advantage of that.
Sure. I feel like when I've heard about TOMRV in the past, I've heard it's challenging, beautiful, and also everyone is very well fed. So hopefully that tradition will continue.
Yeah, that's funny. When we, as a committee, decided to resurrect and bring back TOMRV, the number one thing people said is, you have to go Bettendorf to Dubuque to bring that challenge back, but you also have to feed us. We're going to do that, and you're going to be very well fed. But all joking aside, since we did this ride 5 years ago, food prices have jumped considerably.
Oh, sure. Right.
So that is one piece of feedback we've gotten is, hey, your price is quite a bit different. And I'm like, well, we're going to feed you. And we're going to feed you well.
Right. Hey, it'll be worth it.
Yes.
Yeah. Will you tell us a little bit about the history of TOMRV? Because you alluded to the fact that it hasn't been happening. And of course, the title of this episode is that TOMRV is back. So give us some history.
Yeah. So TOMRV was started 46 years ago, so it was started by some local Quad City Bike Club gentlemen that just really wanted a challenging ride. And they put it together and it took off. At its peak, TOMRV was attracting almost 2,000 riders from across the Midwest.
Wow.
And they really were taking on the challenge of the Bettendorf to Dubuque. So that really 100-mile route. And then over time, they brought in this second start option at Goose Lake. And while Goose Lake, Iowa to Dubuque, Iowa is about 65 to 70 miles, that's really where your climbing starts.
Okay.
So while you're knocking off maybe 30 miles, you're not foregoing the hills. And then the whole Dubuque, the partnership with the colleges, a lot of rides use partnerships with colleges, and it really does make it a nice setting to overnight at, a safe spot. But then, flash forward, we get to 2019, life is good as we all know it, and then 2020 hits the world. And TOMRV was prepared to come back, but because of everything going on in the world, it just wasn't, stated as a safe thing to do. So we canceled. In 2021, we brought back, or the committee brought back TOMRV in a format that they stayed really down here in the Quad Cities. It still offered double century days and multiple routes. And I did it. And quite frankly, I think it's beautiful to ride in this area between the country roads and still along the river.
So it was more of a out and back?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And kind of a loop. Similar support. The food was there. But it didn't have the camaraderie that people got from staying overnight at the college is one thing I've heard. And then we repeated in 2022 and the ridership just dropped off. The request was bring back TOMRV. That's what we heard. I heard it in coming to Expo. I hear it all the time as the Quad City Bike Club's president and a member here. And the other big roadblock we had is the person who had been the co-chair for the last couple of years. She's like, I've put in my time. With any good event, it takes great volunteers.
Yes.
We didn't get anyone to step up. So in 2023, when I was at 2024, I'm sorry, I'm getting confused on my years. 2024 at Expo, I got the same repeat customers coming up and asking again and again, oh, Quad City Bike Club, where's TOMRV? When are you bring back TOMRV? And I finally hit me halfway through the day that I'm going to flip the script and tell them why, let's be honest, TOMRV's not here because I don't have any volunteers.
Ah, yeah, okay.
And I said, you bring me the volunteer committee and I'll bring back TOMRV. Well, lo and behold, I got 2 volunteers to step up. And ironically, they're from the Des Moines area.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So my committee I felt I needed to stay connected to bring it back and have a local influence so I could run errands and stuff here locally. But yeah, Laura Fobb and Steve Miller are both from the Des Moines area, and Laura's husband, longtime TOMRV rider, and she has been that supportive spouse over the years. She did grow up in this area, so is familiar with the river roads. And then Steve and his buddies have ridden for years. So both are really passionate to see this ride come back. And they've shared a lot of stories. They probably have more history knowing this ride even than I myself had as a rider, because I've only done it twice. And they have between the 2 of them and their families, they have over 60 rides. So
wow.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, so they definitely know the ins and outs of TOMRV. And okay, so you know how we all know when RAGBRAI finishes, it always, the tire dip at the Mississippi River. And I have not done TOMRV. So I'm trying to figure out at what point are you in another state if the river separates the states? Are you going over the river?
Yeah, so that's a great question because we'll actually cross the river twice.
Oh, okay.
And so when the ride starts in Bettendorf or Goose Lake, you travel up to Sebula, Iowa, which is around the Clinton area, just as a bigger city to help everyone out. And there's a bridge there that you cross over into Illinois. And right after you cross into Illinois, a couple miles up the road, there's a beautiful state park called Palisades. So that's where the lunch stop is.
Okay.
And then you start climbing and riding. You go to Hanover, Illinois, and then up Blackjack, which is going up to Chestnut Mountain for those of you familiar with the Galena area.
So you're kind of where the ski slopes are, right?
Yes.
Up in that area? Oh, wow.
Yep. Yeah, so there's your elevation coming in. Galena ends up being about 20-ish miles for Dubuque. So a lot of people I've noticed in my own riding do stop and kind of pinpoint Galena as a little bit of a break. They might go to Chestnut Mountain and relax, or they'll maybe eat some more food in Galena or just sightsee in Galena a little bit as a break. From Galena, then we go to Menominee, Cincinnati, and you're on the back roads where you cross over in to Wisconsin. So when you come back into Iowa, you are on 151, the Wisconsin bridge. But because my son goes to school in Platteville, I just really took and paid attention. While it seems crazy that you're on major highway, there is a shoulder, and it's about 1.5 miles that you are on that. Okay. Let's call it open. Because I was watching the ramp. I'm okay, where do you get off once you're back in Iowa by the Q Casino right there? That you can safely get off, that you're not in as much traffic. And we do a good job that, we'll alert people that there's bike traffic, etc. But I do know that is a concern because it's maybe not everyone's normal riding conditions.
About how many riders participate?
So at our peak, we're up about 1,800 to 2,000.
Okay.
It has dropped off over the years as people's lifestyles have changed. Our goal is, we really think the last time TOMRV went, even here in the abbreviated format in 2022, we still had 800 riders.
Okay. So in theory, when you're on those busy roads, even for short amounts of time, in theory, you're surrounded by other cyclists.
Yes.
So, if things are signed properly, I'm hoping that vehicle traffic will be mindful of seeing cyclists.
Yes. And we put out press releases and everything to alert the counties that there is a bike ride going on.
Okay. And you mentioned this a couple times, but will you tell the listeners what group actually organizes this ride every year?
Yeah. So TOMRV is actually organized by the Quad Cities Bicycle Club.
Okay.
It's like our premier event, and it is a fundraiser because when we do make money on it, we do use that money to come back into the community to do community betterment projects around cycling.
Okay.
A couple of things are just repair stations. We've done road cleanups. And one of the Quad City Bike Club's passion projects the last 10 years is our commitment to the Toys for Tots program, where we do grassroots fundraising to supply the program with almost 90% of the bikes they distribute to children in need at the holiday season.
Oh, that's great.
So we raise money. So one of the thoughts is that if the ride is making a little bit of money because of good ridership and we manage our budget, we'll be able to make a small donation into the Toys for Tots program and other charities in the area. There's some smaller rides that come to us for just help and support. We can buy signage that we can lend to other groups. So we do become a resource for that.
And I'll give you a compliment. AP and I have been to the Quad Cities, with RAGBRAI, but of course, several years ago, I think you were one of the speakers. It was called Draft. It was
oh my gosh, yeah,
a group. It was a group of meetups throughout the year that were run by People for Bikes, which is a nonprofit. And we took our bikes and got to ride on some of the trails. And I was so impressed with how well the community embraced the river and made it so ride your bike, go for a walk, sit on a park bench, view the river. It was just so cool how, you all have kept that up.
Yeah, so we have some really great rides. I do think our area is very unique because on any given day, I can truly go ride and do an 8-mile loop, and I can go over 2 bridges and be either in Illinois or Iowa. And it is very bike friendly. And that's, I have a new friend that I met through cycling. She recently relocated from the Des Moines area to the Quad Cities. And last year when we got out and started riding, she's like, this is just so beautiful. Every time I ride my bike, I feel like I'm on a vacation day. I forget that I actually live here.
Yeah.
Because you can go bike through a park. You can have a beverage or at a bar or a restaurant, or you can bring your own along and just hang out in one of our many parks that are right along the river.
Yeah. I love it. All right, we're doing a good job of selling the Quad Cities, right?
yeah. Visit Quad Cities kind of maybe should promo us.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so back to TOMRV. So we've got some people talked into maybe coming June 7th and 8th, hanging out in the Quad Cities, and then doing this bike ride. Can you describe, maybe give some highlights of each day that riders are on this ride? What are they seeing? You definitely told us a little bit about the terrain and the mileage, but any other highlights you want to share?
Yeah. So again, it's the challenge of the hills. You're going to be well fed. It's beautiful scenery that even though it is a challenging ride, if you just look up and take it all in, it just is beautiful to ride along the Mississippi in the hills. I think a couple other things that are unique is, you're going to stay at the college where we'll have some music and a beer garden for people to enjoy on Saturday evening. And then when people come do the return ride from Dubuque, coming back south, they're going to go through the mines of Spain in Dubuque, which is beautiful.
Beautiful, right.
And they're going to follow the Great Mississippi Road, so through Bellevue, and Bellevue has a lot of unique features in itself. And the ride itself is not timed, so if you really want to stop and take in the sights of Bellevue, you absolutely can do that. There's no pressure to finish. If you want to take photos along the route, we're gonna have the rest stops that will open and close, but it's not timed, so you can pedal at your own pace. And then especially on the Iowa side, Steve has mapped out, we're going to bring in some gravel loops where we can truly use our rest stops. So, gravel's all the rage these days. And we figured it out that we can add in some gravel. We know people who are riding gravel are always up for a little bit of a challenge. So you may end up riding a few extra miles, but not a lot, and you'll still get the full support because of, especially on the Iowa side, the way Iowa roads are set up, you can go and transition pretty easily between paved and gravel.
And do you have to do gravel, or can you still choose to just be on your road bike and be on pavement?
You can just choose to stick with the pavement, just don't take the turn onto the gravel.
That's fun. That's kind of like a choose your own adventure. Like if you get to a rest stop and you're like, you know what? I'm feeling like it. I'm going to do some gravel.
Yeah.
That's cool. Very cool.
And I think that's just something, TOMRV has been around for 46 years, give or take, but riding has absolutely changed. So it's a doable ride. I guess I would say somebody should probably, put in some miles and be a little bit in shape or working out a tad bit before they just conquer it. But it's not a race. You can stop as much as you want, and then it's an enjoyable weekend pedaling your bike and hanging out with friends.
And great training if you are registered for RAGBRAI.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One thing we did not mention, but I'm making the assumption, if I'm registered for this ride, somebody's carrying my gear to get to the overnight town. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. So part of your registration fee is you're going to get a cute T-shirt, because I after 46 years, I also designed a logo for this ride, so I'm pretty proud of that.
Excellent.
But yeah, we're gonna carry your luggage from the starting spots to Dubuque, get it to Loras College, and we will even be able to drop luggage. If you do choose to stay at a hotel, we're fairly confident that we can even get your luggage to the hotel for you.
Oh, okay.
So you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. Well, what would you say you're most excited about for this year's ride?
I think at this point, this probably isn't fair. I'm most excited for June 9th.
To celebrate that everyone had a great time.
Yeah. This is the first time I've really been this involved with a ride of this magnitude. I've organized smaller rides. So there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of great people that have led this ride. So I have some pretty big shoes to fill.
Sure.
I have small feet, so that comes into play also. But what I also think is pretty cool is a bunch of friends and people in the biking community who know this is not their jam as far as a distance ride. they're like, yeah, sign me up. What can I do to help?
Sure.
Because they know it's going to take a lot to host, 500 plus riders and make sure they're fed and get helped along the way. So that's pretty exciting. And yeah, I'm going to also be driving that luggage. So that'll be new.
Okay. Well, and, think about 46 years. I mean, that's a lot of history. So I think, hopefully people that are out there listening that have done TOMRV in the past, you got to step it up and come back and rejoin. And, there's going to be changes, but also it sounds like you've got everything under control so far.
Yeah. I think Laura and Steve and I are doing a great job. And to the listeners, if they feel like, hey, they've loved TOMRV over the years, I am taking volunteers still.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll make a request like, hey, if you don't want to ride, come volunteer.
Yeah. Okay. So if somebody's looking at, maybe they're online right now going, oh, TOMRV, this is cool. I don't want to ride that far. So then they need to contact you and, sign up to volunteer. But let's say somebody is thinking about it. Like, I want a good challenge. It's well supported. It's fun. There's lots of history. Any advice you'd give somebody that's kind of on the fence if they want to do it or not?
I think I rode the high for maybe a whole year after I rode double centuries. It's quite an empowering accomplishment. Mm-hmm. And here's the deal. Set a goal and go out and grab it, and you won't know until you try it. I mean, heck, it's 2 days of bike riding with food.
Yeah.
And do you know how much food you can eat on Monday after you ride 200 miles?
You can
have a double-decker hamburger, a hot fudge sundae. This is where my mind goes. If I do this, do you know how much food I can eat?
So this will be you on the 9th. Even though you were a support driver, you'll be like, you know what? I'm done. Let's eat.
Probably, but it's a unique ride. It's a challenging ride, but it's a doable ride.
I wish so bad. I think, we said this before I push record, but AP and I were talking about in the intro, that we've never done this ride, but it happens at the same time that we're on the RAGBRAI inspection ride. But then you mentioned, it's kind of in the same neighborhood when we end this year in Guttenberg, but we'll have to see if we can somehow maneuver doing both rides.
Hey, I have Patrick volunteering. He will come to Guttenberg and get you.
Perfect. We'll see if we can get to Guttenberg early on Saturday. But okay, so where do people go to find out more information? And is registration open yet?
Yep, registration is open. We are using the Get Me Registered platform for registration. Our website is up with a lot of details. If one of your questions is not answered, you can hit the email or event questions. It comes to myself and the committee, and we will give us a little bit of grace, but we can usually turn around questions and get them answered within 24 hours or less.
Great. Okay. And what is that website?
getmeregistered.com. And then if you just put TOMRV in the search, it will take you right to our landing page.
Excellent. And then I did see, I'm on the Quad Cities Bicycle Club website, that you have a tab that, especially if people are interested in the history or frequently asked questions or things like that, it has a lot of good information there. And I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but you could probably click somewhere in there to get to the registration page as well.
Yep, you are absolutely correct. It will take you to the Get Me Registered site, so the Quad Cities Bicycle Club page. Also have a Facebook event out there, so you can follow along and chat with others, ask questions. And then just a little plug, maybe if this isn't the year for you, come over and visit us in the Quad Cities on the East Coast of Iowa. As a club president, I can say this, and I tell everyone, go to our event page, go to our calendar, and if you're over here and you're like, hey, I'm not quite sure where to ride my bike, join one of our group rides.
Oh, cool. Okay.
No strings attached. We're happy to have you. But any of our bike shops locally also have a trails map. And people on our trails are so friendly. You said UNAP didn't have any problems.
No, it was great.
We're going to get you pointed in the right direction.
And it goes without saying, but if you're just on a computer, you can easily Google TOMRV, which is TOMRV, and you get all kinds of information. So if you forget the website, just type in TOMRV.
Yes.
Good. Well, Tina, thank you so much. I love hearing more about stuff to do in the Quad Cities area, and I love that you call it the East Coast. I'm going to start calling that as well.
Yeah, you can tell them that. Just don't let Gothenburg call it the East Coast.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
All right. Thanks, Murph. See you later.
Well, listeners, that is it for today. We want to thank you for tuning in to listen to the Just Go Bike podcast. If you would like to contact Murph and AP with a comment about the podcast, or maybe even you have a topic in mind, you can reach us at justgobikepodcast@gmail.com. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook and watch our intros on YouTube. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, especially if you're a fan. That is going to do it for this week. Until next time,
Just go bike.
Theme song by Ryan Steer, logo by Suzanne Milosevic, produced by Kathy Murphy, social media by Andrea Parrott, intro by Pumpkin. Until next time, just go bike.